Hey friend, I'm back again with another breakdown of a recent music video that I got to film for Vibes. Kane Brown's new single, Two Pair, or should it be Two Pairs? I don't know English. I'm gonna go scene by scene and break down the storyline, shot by shot, lensing, how we lit this bedroom scene, camera movement, big company moves, golf cart rigs, BTSO filming on a moving boat. I shot this video on the ARRI Alexa35, which is why it looks so good. Skin tones always look good. Highlights and shadows are always preserved. This camera has so much dynamic range and I just love it. I want one so badly, but I don't have $65,000 laying around. I would probably have to sell an arm and a leg to afford it, and I would have to make some connections in the black market and then just get too messy, and then I wouldn't have an arm and leg, so operating becomes challenging. So anyways, went with renting this time. This job came through a connection that I had made through socials with Alex, the director, whose work I've been following for the past few years. We have tried working together on previous, music video projects in the past, but our schedules just didn't line up. So he hit me up for this one and my calendar was wide open and I said, let's cook.
Yeah. Just kind of going in and come back out. Yeah.
It was a 2-day gig for me, so I had 1 day to scout and then another to shoot. We basically shot this whole video on the A35 with the exception of shooting one setup with my FX3, but the A35 was paired with the Fujinon 19 to 90mm lens. The reason I went with this lens was because we were just bringing kind of like a cinema verte approach where, we're more handheld, doing little crash zooms while we film, and just for ease of use, because we had a really tight schedule with all the setups we were wanting to fit into the day. You have to remember that time is of the essence and you don't want to be taking forever swapping lenses when the artist is waiting on you or the director's getting impatient, which Alex was not at all, but I just try to be as efficient as possible on set and not be wasting time. In addition to the Fujinon lenses we used, I also had the NiSi Athena prime lenses, which are full frame technically, but they still look really good with the crop factor. These lenses have such a low chromatic aberration, which I love, and they have micro contrast control, which basically just means that the lens makes, faces look a little smoother, the roll off feels more natural, and highlights and shadows just blend a little more cinematically, and the image is just like less sharp and digital looking. It was my first time, trying out this whole set, and I just love how compact these were, and Neil, my first AC, actually rehoused his and made them super colorful, which I absolutely loved. In terms of filtration, I used Rota Pola to help with controlling reflections, make the sky look richer since we were shooting outdoors a lot, and this filter also helps reduce the kind of washed out feel in bright conditions. Another filter that I used was the tobacco filter one, which adds kind of this warm brownish amber tint to the image that I absolutely love. I wanted to give this whole video kind of a more vintage sunsetty vibe and to just overall warm up the look of it since we were shooting in the hot summer of Florida. 1 second. Oh, hey, what's up? Real quick, if you have a second, if you're enjoying watching this video, please hit that subscribe button if you have a chance. I want to make more content like this, similar to this, and just want to make sure that you feel good about this breakdown so far, and I really appreciate your support. Thanks. Okay. In terms of camera movements, I was either filming between, being on sticks and just zooming with my zoom control that I had on the side, or running handheld kind of with my easy rig. We really didn't have time to, do any complex shots since we were having so many company moves between locations and trying to film as much as we can with the locations we had planned for and the time we had with the artist. I believe we were like trying to fit 6 to 7 setups, different setups throughout the day. It's a 12-hour day and you gotta take into account all the moves that you gotta do. Okay, tight. Let's do a scene by scene breakdown of the whole video. I'll just talk through what we did to achieve our looks. The video opens up with a shot of Kane sitting up in his bed and singing the song. The storyline is very simple and straightforward. It's basically the artist going on an adventure from point A to Z, capturing performances as we go. We start with a frame that's centered on the bed. My wonderful gaffer, Rob, pushed his light through from the outside through the window.
Was it 250, Rob?
250 and a quarter grit.
Nice. Doubling it up.
Just to make it super soft.
I believe he had an M18, which is an 1800 watt HMI bulb that has this nice daylight punch at 4000 Kelvin through a CTO gel to warm it up, and a frame of diffusion for, soft push from the outside through the window. And if you notice the hard light that's kind of coming through the bedside window, we basically had another M18 that was coming through that side from the corner. You don't see it obviously, through to just kind of give the artist an edge as he sits up. And then we cut to facing him straight on. For this shot, we essentially remove our hard light and bring in a light mat to key him with from the camera left. The light mat has another diff in front of it to just further soften that push. And then for this back shot, we removed our lights from, the window side, the side we were shooting on, and just quickly rolled for 30 seconds, having him perform. From there, we move out from the bedroom scene to Kane walking out of the house with a cup of coffee. We do a crash zoom from the 19mm to 90mm into Kane drinking his coffee. We did a handful of takes, and that was a goofy, funny little moment. Then we move on to the golf cart rig, which was super fun to do. My favorite setup this whole shoot by far. I had 3 amazing grips on my team that were working on the golf cart while we shot the bedroom and coffee drinking scene. The cart had a handful of mounting points, and I initially was willing to settle and just be okay with using my FX3 for this scene, but my grips had like 30 years, 40 years of experience in the industry collectively and were refusing to settle. So they were like, no, we're gonna figure out how to mount this Alexa35 dead center. The hard mount was set up with a bunch of like cartellinis on the inside and the bottom of the cart that were connected all around with the pipes. It would have probably taken me like 4 or 5 hours to do this rig, something similar to this by myself, but these pros did it in a matter of an hour, and so grateful for this team being able to pull this off. And I have my FX3 on the side angle as well that had the 18mm Athena lens. We shot a handful of takes of the artist Kane driving around the neighborhood, and then swapped out the hard mount for a few follow shots. I grabbed the Alexa and shot like 2 handheld takes of him singing the chorus in different parts of the song. I definitely couldn't feel my arms after this whole setup and should have brought a Cine saddle to kind of help me out, because I was just kind of running handheld with a moving golf cart. And then after this, we then shoot the artist pulling up to the boardwalk, doing another performance scene. I think at this point you can see what type of coverage we're doing with each setup. If you notice how the sky and the clouds are a little richer in the scene. I would credit that to the Rota Pola for helping me out on this cloudy day, and it just feels like that little patch of blue was just a little more punchy. On the filter, you just kind of roll the knob until you feel good with the image. We couldn't really film Kane, performing while the boat was moving at 30, 40 miles an hour, because I would have flown off the deck and we definitely would have lost the camera to the ocean. But we drove out, or floated out, or whatever the right terminology is. This boat was worth like millions of dollars, so we had to be so careful with all our movements, company moves, camera gear moving around, and make sure to not scratch anything on the outside or damage the exterior, interior. So we did a take of the artist again performing, as well as B-roll moments of him hanging out with his friends and enjoying that #boat life. This whole scene was our most complicated scene in terms of logistics. We really only had the boat for 3 hours between loading in and out, including driving out about 30 minutes to this little island that was called Crab Island that was jellyfish infested. So we basically had to cut 2 to 3 other setups that we wanted to do because we just had to be back at the beach for that sunset moment. One of the shots that we actually had to pull out was the artist diving into the water, and I was gonna shoot him from another boat with an underwater housing rig that I was very excited to jump in the water with, but we just realized that when we had stopped the boat, we were literally surrounded by like hundreds of jellyfish the size of this keyboard probably, or bigger. But it was just not worth the risk. We had to finish up, head back to the beach. And then once we got to the beach, another bummer was that the sunset scene we wanted to film was just not as strong of a sunset because it was a cloudy day, but we were still able to pick up a couple performances while we were having to set up the bonfire scene behind us. I did these takes with the 40mm and the 85mm lens, the Athenas. And then once we're done with that, we moved on to the bonfire scene. In addition to the talent being just kind of naturally lit by the fire, I had my gaffer build this pole light with a China ball at the end to kind of cast a warm light onto everyone that's sitting around, just like a soft warm light, just to bring the ambience up. Little kiss of, warmth to not have everyone's faces be too dark, or being forced to open up on my lens and blow out the highlights on the fire. So we just kind of built that up. It was battery powered, so we didn't have to plug it into a generator or anything. So there you have it. That's how the sausage is made with this video. Comment down below if you've ever been stung by a jellyfish and how recently that happened. I don't think I've ever been stung by a jellyfish, but I would love to hear your story. See you on the next one. Peace.